All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we are going to be discussing NCATA, Collegiate Opportunities in Acrobatics and Tumbling for Athletes and Judges.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Janelle Cook, and I am the Executive Director of the NCATA, and we're excited to have you on. Thanks for joining. We are going to go to the first slide here. Let me make sure. There we go. And just wanted to run through a little bit with you today on what we'll be discussing. We are going to talk about a little bit about what acrobatics and tumbling is, just to be sure you're all well aware of that. We're going to tell you a little bit about our current student athletes, where they've come from, some things that they're doing. We're also going to talk to you about how your athletes at your gym can become student athletes, talk about scholarship opportunities, how acrobatics and tumbling student athletes are recruited. And we're also going to talk about, if you're a person who's interested in officiating with the NCATA, we'll talk about judging and the process for training and all of those good things. So just wanted to give you a quick overview as we begin. So we're going to start off watching a video, like I said, so hopefully you can all hear the audio as we go. This is a highlight video produced by the NCATA that shows a little competition overview for each of the events.
The compulsory event consists of 4 heats: an acro heat, a pyramid heat, a toss heat, and a tumbling heat. The skills for the compulsory event represent the basic skills for the sport of acrobatics and tumbling. In the compulsory event, each team will execute the same skills so that officials and fans can compare. Each heat will have a start value of 10. The officials will be looking for execution, running, and stability of the structure. Next up is the acro event, which consists of 3 heats. This begins the optional portion of the meet. Each team will compete with different possible start values. There will be between 2 and 4 athletes on the floor in each heat. Each element is determined by different skill levels. Heat 1 has 5 elements. Heat 2 has 6 elements, and Heat 3 has 7 elements. The start value is determined by the difficulty and combination of each skill. This event shows power, strength, and balance. So look for stability of the structure and position of the top. Also, each position must be held for 3 seconds. The pyramid event is coming up. In this event, athletes will be stacked 2.5 people high. This event has 3 different heats with different requirements for each heat. Heat 1 must have a flip. Heat 2 must have a twist. And Heat 3 must have a release element. The start value of each heat is determined by the difficulty and the combination of the entry, structure, and dismount. Some of the things the officials will be looking for are the positions of the tops and the sturdiness of the structure. The next event is the toss event. Here you will see 4 athletes toss a teammate into the air. The teammate thrown into the air, or the top, will perform a flip or twist before being caught. There are 3 heats in this one event. The duo toss, for instance, is combined of 2 toss groups throwing the top into the air. These groups should look exactly alike and be in sync. The start value of the toss depends on skill that the top throws in the air. The official will be looking for height, the top's body position, and tight catches from the bases. The next event is the tumbling event. This event has 6 heats. The first 3 are synchronized group tumbling passes, a duo, a trio, and a quad pass. The last 3 are individual tumbling passes. The start value of each heat is determined by the difficulty and combination of skill in each pass. The officials will be looking for form, execution, and technique of each skill. The team event is the last event at the meet. It encompasses everything that you just watched previously in the first 5 events. The team event features up to 24 athletes on the floor at one time, performing synchronized acro, tosses, pyramids, and tumbling in a 2-minute and 30-second routine, all set to music. In this event, the judges are looking for stability of the structures, body positioning, and technique of the tumbling. This is a very fast-paced event, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled.
All right, so again, just a quick overview for you there about the sport. As you can see, a little history on the sport is that the sport was started 10 years ago and began to meet the needs of gymnasts and competitive cheerleaders who did not have a competitive home at the collegiate level. So you can see a lot of aspects of gymnastics, acrobatic gymnastics, tumbling involved, as well as some of the aspects of cheerleading. So a couple things that we wanted to make sure that you are aware of is that right now we have 31 members of the NCATA that are competing in varsity acrobatics and tumbling on their campuses. They are from all 3 divisions of the NCAA, as well as 2 schools in the NAIA, and they're nationwide, and we'll have a map there to show you where all the locations soon. And the important thing that we want everyone to know is that these are varsity teams. So they are integrated fully into their athletic departments and treated just as the softball, the lacrosse team, the basketball team on their campuses. So it's a really true athlete experience, student athlete experience at each level, and a competitive experience that we know is really life-changing for women. And really what's important is that, all of you are probably very familiar with NCAA gymnastics, and it's a very competitive field. And so the opportunities that acrobatics and tumbling create is an opportunity for those athletes in your gyms that may not be at the elite level, that may not be fully, recruited for each apparatus, or may not be a specialist. And this is a home for them in acrobatics and tumbling. One of the questions we get often is acrobatics and tumbling an NCAA sport? And that's something that the NCATA is working on every day to move acrobatics and tumbling towards NCAA status. So we got an important ruling in June and a recommendation from the Committee on Women's Athletics, who oversees the emerging sport program for the NCAA. And they recommended that acrobatics and tumbling become an emerging sport. So we're currently in the process of drafting legislation. All 3 divisions have elected to consider the legislation, which is sort of the second phase following the recommendation. And then there'll be a vote in January with the NCAA, April for Division I. And they'll vote to make this an emerging sport if all goes as planned. With that vote, we would be beginning as an emerging sport in August 1st of 2020. So this current season would not be technically under the NCAA umbrella, but moving forward, that is the progress. Our goal, as we said before, we're at 31 members. Our ultimate goal is to become a championship sport and grow acrobatics and tumbling programs to the hundreds. But upon reaching 40 teams within the NCAA, we'll have an opportunity to, again, go through a legislative process to become a championship sport, which is what you're used to seeing, March Madness, NCAA gymnastics championships, those types of things. So that's when we would become a full championship sport with the NCAA. Again, just wanted to give you a sense of where all of our institutions are. You can see over on the right there the breakdown by division, and you can see we've got grown very well regionally in the west and the southeast there, in the east, northeast, and southeast, and we're continuing to grow on the west, and that's where our members are located. An important aspect for the NCATA and for these programs being varsity programs and high-level competition is that we have championship opportunities. So the NCATA National Championships are held annually each year on a member campus. It includes an 8-team single elimination tournament, as well as event finals in the acro, pyramid, toss, and tumbling event heats. And we also now have a full conference sponsorship in the Mountain East Conference, which is a Division II conference, primarily in West Virginia. and they are now hosting conference championships. They hosted their first conference championship tournament last spring and will be going into their second year. So we're continuing to grow at the conference level as well as regionally so that we can grow these championship opportunities for our student athletes. So I am going to pass it over to Heather Ould, who is our operations coordinator for the NCATA, and she is going to talk to you a little bit about our current student athletes and the makeup of our demographic population. So Heather, pass it to you.
Thank you, Janelle. As we are going to talk about our student athletes and then also get into the recruiting and the officials piece, I want to make note that many of you may have some questions that are popping into your mind as we're going through this. At the end of the presentation, we will also have some contact information for you. So look for that at the end, and we certainly would invite people to submit questions that you may have that we can help answer. So we're going to talk a little bit about our student athletes. This is a picture from this year's national championship. These are all the teams that participated in the national championship event this season. Currently, our student athletes are composed of a variety of backgrounds, and that's something that we really pride ourselves in. Currently, from our current student athletes within the NCATA, their high school experience, about 50% were artistic gymnasts throughout high school. We have another 5% that are coming through from the various other disciplines under USA Gymnastics, so acrobatic gymnastics, trampoline and tumbling, gymnastics for all as well. And then the balance is coming from the competitive cheer side, as well as we have some athletes that are coming in from with other sport experience throughout high school. And as Janelle previously mentioned, our student athletes really are treated on campus the same as all the other varsity athletes on their individual campuses and sports within the athletic department. So that means our athletes are also representing their institution academically and receiving other honors on campus related to things that the department or the campus may offer. Also, they've been representing their institution at the conference and national level on the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. Typically, each institution will have a Student Athlete Advisory Committee, and then they will elect an individual that can represent them at the conference or national level. And we have also seen our athletes representing their institutions nationally. Also, some of our athletes have continued to represent the USA through national team competition. The photo here are two of our student athletes. One is a trampoline and tumbling background, and then the other is an acrobatic gymnast that represented the USA. In addition, after college, there are also other opportunities for our athletes. Obviously, once they've graduated, they can go into the career field of their choice, but we've also seen our athletes go into other types of competition. We currently have 2 athletes competing under USA weightlifting, and it's actually been something that we've seen a partnership with USA weightlifting, and the strength that our athletes are bringing transitions over very well into their sport. We've also seen our former athletes go on to become collegiate coaches as well as officials. And as the individual on the right in the picture actually was on American Ninja Warrior as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Siobhan White with the NCATA, and she is going to give you some additional information about the recruitment process.
Hi, I'm Siobhan White, and I'm the Associate Director of the NCATA, and I'm going to talk to you about the recruiting process and how to help your athletes become future student athletes for the NCATA. So we, as you can see from the overview video that you watched earlier, we have athletes of all different body types and body shapes for different skill positions. Due to crossover rules, student athletes cannot participate in every heat in the meet, but there is the ability for them to specialize on their team. Level of gymnasts in the artistic world, we can vary from institution to institution, but the NCATA members have recruited level 7 JO optional gymnasts all the way to level 10, as well as some Excel gymnasts, particularly the platinum or diamond level. Not only are autistic gymnasts recruited from the gymnastics world, but we have also seen student athletes with acrobatic backgrounds, TNT backgrounds, and gymnastics for all. Scholarship opportunities at each member institution may include athletic financial aid or academic or other aid. With our Division I and Division II, they may receive athletic and academic. Our Division III institutions do not offer athletic scholarships, but they do offer academic and other aid. And sometimes we see our Division III institutions put together some really nice packages, sometimes better than a Division I or Division II. So our teams use equivalency scholarship models similar to other college sports like baseball or soccer. So the best thing to do would be to contact that institution to see what type of scholarships they have available, but also looking at the equivalency model that is, depending on the division, the school may have up to a certain number of scholarships, and then those scholarships are divided among several athletes. Headcount model would be similar to NCAA gymnastics, where there's one full scholarship per person. So some steps in the recruiting process. The first thing that we would recommend is that you actually visit our website, www.thencata.org. That QR code, you could actually, I think, take a picture of it right now, and it'll lead you to our website. On our website, we have information for student athletes. It has information about each one of our member institutions, and then also information about that institution with the coach and their contact information. We highly recommend that your athletes register with the NCAA or the NAIA Eligibility Center. If they are looking at the NCAA, they need to register under gymnastics. If they're looking at one of our NAIA institutions, they would need to register under cheer and dance. Also, taking the SAT and ACT as soon as possible, and possibly several times. The third thing is researching and reaching out to those member institutions. So research the institutions of interest, seeing what their requirements are as far as GPA requirements, SAT scores, ACT scores, if that school has an academic program that they're interested in, if the location works or fits for them, looking at the enrollment size of the institution. Each institution on their acrobatics and tumbling page has a tab at the top that says recruit me, be recruited, something to that like, in which your athletes can click on it and then fill out information about themselves that will go directly to the coach at that school. In addition to filling out that questionnaire for each institution, it's highly recommended that the athlete reach out to that coach at that institution. When they are reaching out to that coach, making sure that they maybe provide a little bit of a bio. Hold on. Make sure that they include their eligibility number, which they'll get assigned when they go through either the NCAA or the NAIA register. And then also making sure that they understand the rules for that division. So the coach will be also helpful with giving them information about when they can be contacted or how often they can contact them and the means in which they can be contacted. So sharing your skills, writing a short biography about themselves, how they're doing academically, some activities that they might be involved in, some honors and awards they might have received, as well as their competitive history. And if they are an athlete that participates in more than one sport, they can definitely include information about those other sports. And then also information about their team, whether it's a high school team or a club team, and their skill set. It's recommended too that they put together a short little video. This can be just individual video clips, or they can actually create a YouTube page and share that information with the coach at the institution that they're interested in. A lot of times the coaches at the institutions will have certain guidelines or helpful hints as far as what they would like to see when showcasing their skills, but make sure that they're being safe. We want to emphasize that they are safe when they are executing these skills for the videos that they are producing. So the videos can include many different things: running tumbling passes, front tumbling or back tumbling, standing tumbling, balance skills, handstand holds on the floor, handstand holds on beam, handstands on bars, press handstands, pike holds, straddle holds, and any other skills or abilities that you think would highlight them from a practice competition, or any other skills that a coach would like to see. We would also like for them to keep their tumbling on spring floor. So even though when they get to the collegiate level, they will be performing on 2-inch foam floor, we would definitely like to see them stay on the spring floor that they're used to practicing and competing on. Skills can also be done on an air floor, a tumble track, a trampoline. So here's an example of some recruiting videos that have been produced for institutions in the past. This is an example of one of our current coaches, her YouTube page that was used for recruiting. You'll see that she did skills into the pit, into, they can tumble onto a resi pit, make sure that their name is on the link. And then if you have clips from a meet, even if it's bars or beam or vault, those things are okay to include as well. So here are some samples from some other athletes, what they have submitted to different institutions during the recruiting process. So handstand holds, straddle holds, straddle presses, and like I mentioned before, it can be on the floor, it can be on beam, it can be on bars, standing tumbling, our compulsory standing tumbling is composed of a standing back tuck, a straddle back tuck, and a back handspring back tuck. A lot of institutions like to see those basic skills, and then any other standing tumbling that your athletes might be able to execute. Front tumbling and Arabians. And again, it does not have to be on a foam floor. It can be on an air floor, a tumble track, trampoline, rod floor, ski floor. Back tumbling for the NCATA right now, the hardest skill we have for back tumbling is a 1.5. So if they have whips, if they have layouts, fulls, 1.5. If they can tumble out of skills, and any other videos that they have that they feel can be helpful. Like I mentioned before, it's okay to show skills or routines from different events. Bars being, our coaches are really good as far as relating those events over to our sport. So some other things that your athletes may consider: highly recommend that they attend camps or clinics that are offered through some of our institutions. They can learn more about the sport, and it actually provides them an opportunity to be hands-on, to get in and participate in the sport and learn from current student athletes as well as those college coaches. Follow the NCATA and the NCATA member institutions on social media through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then also, if you are near one of our member institutions, we would recommend you going and watching a meet. Our meets take place between February and the end of April. If you're not able to join us live, then you can watch online. The majority of our member institutions do live stream their meets, and the schedule can be found, the schedule in its entirety can be found on the NCATA website the end of September. So now I'm going to send it back over to Heather, and she's going to talk to you a little bit more about some tips for coaches and retention at your gym.
Thanks, Siobhan. For those of you that are coaches on the call today, one of the things that you might consider is inviting NCATA coaches to speak to your staff, gymnasts, and parents. So for those of you that do have member institutions near your gym, or perhaps even the next state over, oftentimes a lot of our coaches are maybe recruiting in your state, which they could also add to their trip, a visit to your gym. And this is just a nice way for your athletes and your parents to learn more about the sport, but also to hear it directly from a college coach. If your optional teams are traveling to invitationals, perhaps you're in a state where there isn't a team near you. If you do happen to travel to other states during your optional season and there is a team nearby, reach out to that coach. Perhaps they could come to the competition and watch your athletes, but also you may be able to schedule to take your team to a meet, for example. Other ways that coaches can learn about our sport, one option is to become an official. That certainly helps with understanding the elements that we compete, as well as the deductions that we're looking for that you can then take back to your gym and your athletes, as well as watching meets online. As Siobhan mentioned, a lot of our meets are online, probably the vast majority of them. So that certainly gives you an opportunity to see the different teams at the different division levels, so that you can see the skill level of those different teams. The other thing with what we are finding as athletes are becoming more familiar about acrobatics and tumbling and really want to see about pursuing this as a collegiate opportunity, that this can also assist with retention at your gym. This allows for, if you have an athlete that wants to pursue this, perhaps if they want to step away from competition but still train, this can certainly support that, because it can be a less rigorous training schedule. Also, if you have athletes that are recovering from injury, we do a lot of balance work with our skills. So some of that balance work might be able to be implemented while they're recovering from injury. Let's say if they're not able to tumble, they can work on presses and holds that would apply over to our sport. And essentially, we're just taking the skill set of what your athletes have been training for potentially almost their entire life, and applying it into a new format. As Janelle mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we also wanted to talk about the opportunities for judging with the NCATA. With our judges, our pool of judges is equally as diverse as our student athletes. So our officials are coming from artistic gymnastics, trampoline and tumbling. We also have an official that happens to be a diving official, for example, that really translates over very nicely for our toss judging. But our official pool is certainly just as diverse as our student athletes. It is a great way to learn the sport. And for our process for training, our new officials that are coming in have 2 training sessions. One of the nice parts about our process is all of the training and testing for us is completely online. So the 2-part training is done via WebEx. So similar to this webinar programming, we have a WebEx program that does something similar to be able to share the presentations. Also, our officials would then, once training is completed, have a written and a practicals test, which is done online. And that once those tests are passed, you are certified for 4 years. And on meet day for officials, just for a point of reference, we have 3 officials on meet day, 1 head official and 2 execution officials. One of the nice things that I hear, particularly from our officials that are also optional level artistic gymnastics judges, is that it's so nice that they just judge execution. So our 2 execution officials are truly focused on the execution of the skills, and the way we judge is very similar to artistic gymnastics. So if you have bent knees, it's an up to 3/10 deduction. Bent arms, up to 3/10. So it's very similar as far as the way we apply our deductions. Once you become an official, you have the ability, depending on your availability, to be assigned at meets throughout the country. So for example, I'm located in Georgia. We don't have a member institution here. However, I'm able to travel to South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee to judge, as well as have had some other opportunities to judge outside of the Southeast. In addition, we have opportunities for judges to judge at the conference and national championship level. So we have a process where we request from our pool of judges anyone that has interest, and then evaluate their areas as far as assigning head officials and execution officials for those meets. The other judge on meet day is the head official. That individual, a new judge coming in would come in as an execution official, and then after they've been an execution official, typically for at least 1 to 2 years, they then have the ability to step into that head official role, and that is the individual that is evaluating start values, as well as applying neutral penalties and things of that nature as it relates to the meet. From a timeline standpoint, we are actually getting geared up to begin our officials training for this upcoming season. Our training for officials takes place in September and October. Then following successful completion of the training, which again for new officials is the 2 one-hour WebEx calls, you would then proceed to the written and practical testing. So that testing again is done completely online, and you have up to 3 attempts to pass the test each season. We assign our officials in November and December in advance of the meet season, which begins in February and continues through April. And with our assigning the November, December dates, allow us the opportunity to make any travel arrangements if there's airfare required for official travel into a meet, for example. So as we have continued to see growth in our sport at the collegiate level, there are certainly opportunities for people to become involved in our sport, certainly student athletes and competing at the collegiate level, but as well as we've started to see coaches coming into our sport from outside of our sport. So we've, one of our newest head coaches, his background is artistic gymnastics and men's gymnastics. And also we are seeing folks coming in as officials. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, if you do have any questions, I'd like to direct you to a couple of places. If you have any questions regarding coaching, so perhaps you have an interest to become a coach, whether that be a head or assistant coach or maybe graduate assistant opportunities, we would direct you to Janelle Cook with the NCATA, and her email address is here. And she can help get you connected to the appropriate person. With, again, on our website, we also post any open opportunities for coaches. If you have any other questions, other general questions related to this presentation, or questions regarding officiating or the recruitment process, you can send those questions to me, Heather Old. And again, my email address is here, and I will be happy to get back with you and help answer any questions you might have. And finally, we would highly encourage you to visit our website. Our website includes contact information, further information about the sport, our season schedules, as well as a variety of other information. So please certainly feel free to reach out to our website and take a look. And that concludes our webinar for today. Janelle, any final thoughts, or Siobhan? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
I would just say that I'm sorry, Heather. I would just say if you are interested in becoming an official, that you would contact Heather as soon as possible, as we are preparing for training to begin shortly.
And this is Janelle. I would just follow up to say thank you to all for participating today, and we appreciate your questions and participation and look forward to talking with you further. So thank you to USA Gymnastics and to all of you for being with us. Heather, can you flip back to the contact page for everyone? Thank you so much, all.
All right, I think everybody is able to get down the contact information. Thanks for attending. If you have any questions, go ahead and just email those contact information people, and they will get you taken care of. Thanks, everybody.